to Georgia Championship Wrestling for the spring of 1982. At the end of the winter of 1982, Ron Bass, who has been undefeated, never lost by pin or submission in GCW, defeated Tommy Rich to become the national champion. And he plans on being a fighting champion.
When I first came here, I told you I was going to do it, and now I won the National Heavyweight Championship. And one thing that I told you all my shot at the time. You got people like Dickie Sale coming in here, he wants a shot. I know Dusty Rhodes, he wants his time. Ricky Steamboat. There's one man, Tommy Rich, he keeps hollering, he wants to get in the ring. He wants to get his title back. Let me tell you something, Tommy Rich, and everybody else sitting back there watching. Anytime that you want to get in the ring with a big outlaw, I'll accommodate you anytime, and I'll come out and I'll talk.
Tommy Rich would also lose his match against Ric Flair to try and win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So the booking for a top face, Tommy Rich, kind of odd at this point as he loses his title to Ron Bass, also loses to the Nature Boy, the NWA champion Ric Flair. Meanwhile, the tag team champions, Ole Anderson and Stan Hansen, are finding themselves to be pretty unstoppable. They are also still feuding with Terry Funk and Dusty Rhodes, and are hoping to culminate this feud in a bunkhouse match, which is basically a plainclothes street fight match.
Name somebody who can stop Ole Anderson and myself. You think the Briscoes can do it? You think the Funks? You think that Dusty Rhodes and that partner? Do you think anybody out Terry Funk? You name all these people in the world to try to stop Ole Anderson and myself. We don't do nothing but get out there and wrestle hard and lasting, and that's why we come out winners. Because we've got something here that I think you'll be interested in seeing. Maybe the people will be interested in remembering how Dusty Rhodes one time looked when he was going against me. How Terry Funk looked when he went against Stan and I. It didn't look too good. Why don't you show? Quit talking about it, because a lot of people need to get convinced by seeing what we're talking about.
Ole brings up footage from 2 years ago when Dusty Rhodes was feuding against the Andersons, and they left him bloody mess with blood-stained clothes. Stan Hansen and Ole Anderson would defeat Dusty Rhodes and Terry Funk in that bunkhouse brawl. However, the tag feud might come to an end, but the Ole Anderson and Dusty Rhodes blood feud would continue. Ole has a match that he wants against Dusty Rhodes.
Nobody is going to have any kind of fun until somebody is finally done. Somebody is out of wrestling. Rhodes figures it's going to be me. As far as I'm concerned, it's going to be him, because it's not going to be a match where Dusty Rhodes has the advantage. It's not going to be a match where somebody's going to bring in their own little special gimmick. It's going to be a match where Ole Anderson is finally going to be able to do something that he wants to do. And if you look right here, what I propose is this. You put this over your head. You don't see any eye holes, you don't see any place to breathe, you don't see any place to even do anything except just be stuck in darkness. The match is already signed. All you got to do is put the thing on and accept it and get out in the ring and see what you can do. But for the first time, it's going to mean that the advantage goes here, because nobody can see anything. There's not going to be a bull rope, there's not going to be a bell. There's just going to be two people, both of them as blind as a bat. We start out from zero. But in this type of a match, it means only one thing. One man is going to go down and stay down. And one man is finally going to emerge victorious.
Ole wants Dusty in a match with blindfolds on, in a match he's calling a Minnesota Loggers match for whatever reason. But it is Dusty and his amazing mic work that makes this feud classic.
You talk about putting a hood over yourself going into the dock. Ole Anderson, since the day your mama had you, you've been in the dock. Since the day he had him, he's been in the dock. There's a different kinds of being in the dock. It's dark sometime when you're with your lady and it's pitch black. You know without reaching over there, that's going to be a lot of tender loving care there. That's one kind of dark. And then the other kind of dark is when you're in an alley somewhere and it's pitch black and there's 5 guys there about to kick your booty, then you got to get down. You know what dark means. I know what dark is. I live with dark, you understand? I've raised in dark. I know what dark is. And let me leave it with this, Ole Anderson. You can believe it. I can be as blind as a bat. I can be covered up. And I can be in the same building with you with 5,000 million people, Jack. And it can be dark as it was on the other side of the moon. But one thing is for sure, I will be able to smell you, Jack. And as long, I said as long, and I'll say it again, as long as I can smell you, then I'm gonna kick your booty, baby.
Brad Armstrong comes out and decides he wants to try on this black hood and see if it's really see-through or not. He talks about how, you know, if you put this on, you can't see your opponent. And he doesn't see Ole Anderson coming out to attack his ass. Of course, Dusty is one of the faces that help come out to make the save, and he fights Ole off. And then Dusty gives us another classic.
I got it on my face! I got it! You pig! I can smell you anywhere! Come get it! Oink, oink! Oink, oink! Oink, oink! Oink, oink! Oink, oink! You see that? Bob, I told you! I said this! I'm here, Dusty. I'm gonna take it to it because I know where it's at.
As if starting an oink oink chant wasn't good enough, Dusty Rhodes has one classic promo after another setting up this match, showing that he is just the best face on a microphone in the 80s.
I have had my hair done especially for this program here today. I'm so pretty, it's unreal. Miss Piggy! Oink, oink, I'm calling you, Miss Piggy! I'm calling you, Miss Piggy! It's gonna be so loud! I'm bringing in here a live pig and putting him right here so you can smell what you smell like, and your mama should have beat you a long time ago.
Dusty goes on to win that Minnesota Loggers match against Ole Anderson. Ole and Stan Hansen aren't the only dominant tag team in Georgia Championship Wrestling. Super Destroyer and John Studd are the national tag team champions, and they are dominant themselves. So dominant that Mr. Wrestling 2 is coming back to the territory to help stop them.
We have a few people running around roughhousing some people. I'm referring to John Studd, Super D, Buzz Sawyer. All 3 of you men. Seems like you're taking it upon yourself that you feel that you can run the state of Georgia. You've organized a threesome there to where you feel you can do anything that you want. At any time. Let me tell you something, gentlemen. I'm coming that way. I'm going to come back to Georgia, and we're going to get us 3 people together, and we're going to see what we can do with you.
Those 3 people are Mr. Wrestling 2, Leroy Brown, and Michael Hayes. These 3 win various 6-man tag matches against the likes of John Studd, Buzz Sawyer, Super Destroyer. However, where the national tag titles are concerned, John Studd and Super Destroyer stay dominant. Another person also comes to Georgia, that being Paul Orndorff. Orndorff leaving Mid-South Wrestling to debut for Georgia Championship Wrestling. He would win in his debut, interestingly enough, with a perfect plex. back to the main event scene, while the National Heavyweight Championship scene, we get a lot of Tommy Rich being a good guy. He visits a kid's hospital, and man, isn't that Tommy Rich a good guy.
So, how many girlfriends you got?
One.
One. Have you talked to her since you've been out here?
No.
Now's your chance to look around there and smile real big at her and say hi.
Hi.
And Ron Bass sticks to his word, being a fighting champion, giving Tommy Rich several shots at his title.
I've only had a short time now, and people are coming from all over. They're wanting the big outlaw. Well, let me tell you something. There's one man that I want more than anybody. That's Mr. Tommy Rich. You know, he's going around and telling everybody that I beat him because he was down just a little bit. He was really down. Let me tell you something, Tommy Rich. It's going to be you and I in the alley. Now, you're going to have an excuse this time, son. What's your excuse going to be? You're going to come out there and say, hey, I wasn't feeling good. My old lady was grappling out there, son. Well, let me tell you something, Tommy Rich. I hope you have a good day. I'm going to make no excuses for you, son, because I'm going to beat you. I'm going to prove to you. I'm going to prove to the promotions that I'm ever redneck out there watching that I am the true national heavyweight wrestling champion.
But eventually, Tommy Rich would give Ron Bass his first loss in the territory, and Rich would win back the national title. As you see, a lot of good feuds were going on in Georgia Championship Wrestling the spring of '82. But the best feuds in the territory still seem to involve Roddy Piper and Bob Armstrong. The feud that had warmed up the winter is still going strong when Piper shoves down a referee, takes off the ref's belt, and starts to whip Bob Armstrong with it. The Piper and Armstrong feud has been called the feud of the year for many reasons, and now you all can see it playing out why this feud had so much heat thanks to Piper's heel work. Piper is using his good friendship with Gary Hart to his advantage.
Let me tell you something. That's one of the glorious things about having a friendship like ours. I'll scratch your back because you scratched mine.
Piper is hoping that thanks to Gary Hart, that the great Kabuki will take out Bob Armstrong. But Bob has friends too, and he brings in Dick Slater to take care of Piper.
And I'll tell you what, Mr. Slater, Mr. Excitement, has got something for Roddy Piper. He told me he was going to put holes in that big smile of Piper's, and I can't wait to see that. Roddy, it's Roddy Piper. Are you listening to me, Roddy? You know, you think that I'm crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I'm going to drive you next. But the main reason is because I've had to listen to your mouth long enough, and I sure a lot of people around this country are tired of you. You know, Rodney, you don't know what I'm made of. You don't know what I'm capable of doing. You know, Rodney, I don't have the vocabulary that you do. I don't run my mouth like you do. But I got one thing that you better be aware of, Rodney, and that is I have the ability to beat you. So get ready, Rodney, because I want you to dream about me, Dick Slater. Bye-bye, Rodney. I'm gonna dream about you. Yes, I'm gonna dream about you. Yes, I'm gonna think about you. And I want you to think of the most important point of life. You do not throw rocks at a guy who's got a machine gun fighter.
Piper would lose that match to Dick Slater, but it was by disqualification thanks to Gary Hart's interference.
The only friend that I have here is you. And that's all I need.
Kabuki and Bob would have their showdown as well.
Like I said, unless I have to, but this is a case I have to. Now, you saw what he can do. He can take your head off, he can chop you, kick you, gouge you. And you know, if you break one of the little footses of his, he's going to look funny trying to kick you all on foot. If you take one of those hands and bend it back to you, hear it snap. You know, other folks know how to hurt too. If it takes hurting, then I'm going to give him a hurting for certain. So break him up. I'll be ready for it, man. And as far as your little Piper, Rodney Piper, I hope he sticks his nose in because like I talked to Slater before, he has told me again, he's going to put holes in that pretty smile of Rodney Piper's.
Of course there would be interference, and the Bob Armstrong Great Kabuki match would go to a draw. Piper and Gary Hart strapping Bob again, because you have to continue this hot feud. And it would continue when Bob Armstrong, Dick Slater, and Tommy Rich want Piper, Kabuki, and Gary Hart in a strap match.
It's going to be a banner day for me. They've strapped me for the last time. Every time you wrestle Piper, there's Hart and vice versa. Now we're going to have a strap match where you get stuck. We're going to strap some folks, and I got two good men. I got Dick Slater, Mr. Unpredictable, and I got Wildfire Rich, and we're going to kick some booty, brother. We're going to strap some bodies, right, Tom? Yes, sir. You know, the worst thing that ever happened to me when my mama used to whip me, Gordon, when I did something wrong. Piper, now you've been out here running your mouth for days, but at the Omni, every time we throw you out, brother, somebody going to be strapping you with a belt. Kabuki Hart, and I guarantee you, Tom, Daddy, that's exactly what we're going to be doing.
You got a bunch of people around here that are trying to be really sneaky and get rid of Gary Hart, get rid of Kabuki, get rid of myself, and think they're going to do it by strapping somebody with big, thick leather belts. Nobody did that when I was a kid, and I got no more to say about it because I ain't letting nobody do that to me in the Omni, in no place in the whole wide world.
That's the word.
One thing is for sure, Dick Slater is holding to his word and helping to drive Piper crazy.
Slater, Tommy Rich, but like I said before, Gordon, and I will say again, we are still standing here.
You know, seems like Piper, every time you got Piper, anytime you wrestle him one-on-one, you can count on Kabuki or you can count on Gary Hart to be there. So you put them all in the ring at the same time, and then you get you two other partners, so you got them all six in the ring. And then in order to keep anybody else from coming down, you take and you put men all the way around the ring. And this Piper's got where he likes to take his belt off and use it and whip people. Well, when you got men standing all the way around the ring, anytime you get ready to run, Piper, there's going to be somebody there to strap you.
Piper interrupts Tommy Rich's interview with the great Gordon Solie and starts to threaten him with his belt. They start to threaten each other about strapping each other, and that brings out Bob Armstrong to also confront Piper.
His running days are over. The rabbit days are just about over. Raunchy Rodney ain't going to be running nowhere because when he does, they're going to strap his back and he'll stay put.
Then Piper and Gary Hart interrupt a Bob interview and get in his face, threatening Bob with their straps. That brings out Tommy Rich to get in their faces. A crazed Piper is reaching his boiling point.
Comes out of the ring, they take the belt, and they beat him. And then they take the belt again, and they beat him again. And they keep doing that until the man gets back in the ring. There's got to be a winner. They think they got it all planned together, don't they? Well, let me tell you something. Nobody plays with me. Nobody plays with him. Nobody plays with Kabuki.
Tommy Rich has a heated battle with Buzz Sawyer in a match. Buzz being this wrestling machine, being hyped up by Ole Anderson. But Tommy Rich takes it right back to Buzz Sawyer. But there comes a point in the match where Georgia Championship Wrestling seemingly runs out of time and has to go to commercial. And during the commercial is when Piper starts strapping Rich with his belt. And I'm assuming maybe they had to go to commercial. They couldn't show that on TV because back then maybe it was too violent.
And you can see the welts on his back. He has been severely lashed by Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper! Brother, I want to tell you something. Look at my back, Jordan. Look at it. Piper, the only person that ever whipped me like that was my mama. Leave me alone. Piper, I'm telling you, brother, and you take it for whatever the hell it's worth. You see this back. You look. Get a good look, Piper. You get a good look, because I'm making you a promise. I'm going to get you back come hell or high water, brother.
Damn, did Georgia Championship Wrestling know how to sell tickets to their big show at the Omni or what?
You see, they thought they had it all figured out. They were going to get all their friends around the ring, and oh yes, we'll give them all belts. And we'll whip Roddy Piper, and we'll whip Gary Hart, and we'll whip the great Kabuki. But what happened? I looked way down, and I saw a blonde bombshell, and I saw Roddy Piper, and I saw him whip him. And I saw him whip him. again. And I laughed. And I laughed again. You know why? Because it just goes to prove you're nothing but a sniveling little tiny brat. In the Army, in Columbus, any place you want to, mister.
Bob Armstrong, Tommy Rich, and Dick Slater would defeat Piper, Kabuki, and Gary Hart in that strap match. But Piper finds a new friend in Ole Anderson, which of course brings Dusty Rhodes into the fold, as well as the top stories starts to intertwine. The Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer feud also kicks off harder when Tommy Rich is doing commentary and Buzz Sawyer attacks him. This causes a massive brawl as Piper and Ole also come out, and Dusty Rhodes is out and brings George the Animal Still along with him to attack Piper and Ole. Piper is of course unhappy, and this causes Piper to mock George the Animal Still.
So what Dusty Rhodes is trying to tell me is I've got a monkey on my back, you see. So let me tell you something, Dusty Rhodes, you see. Nothing bothers RP. You see what you do with an animal. Oh, yes, I know about George Steele. I know he's nuts. I know he chews turnbuckles. I know he goes around chasing gravy train, chasing the little dogs around. I know he ain't all there. But let me tell you something. You know what you do with animals? What you do with animals is you take a little fire. You see, because all animals are afraid of fire, and you're going to find out that Roddy Piper, he don't get burnt.
The problem right now, everybody talking and laughing and joking, talking about what's going to happen to Ole Anderson, what's going to happen to Roddy Piper, talking about Dusty Rhodes and that animal. I tell you what, you get him out here right now, you put him in that ring, and we'll show you that we're not afraid of anybody, and we'll show you that we can beat anybody. You put him in that ring.
Yet another brawl would ensue when Piper would attack Tommy Rich while he's giving an interview with Sully. That brawl would bring out Ole Anderson as Ole and Piper try to double team Tommy Rich, and that of course brings out George the Animal Still, who has Piper and Ole's number in these brawls. But when Piper and Ole have a match with Dusty and George the Animal Still, it of course ends in a double disqualification. Both because these wrestlers love their brawls and a brawl would break out, but also because they like to keep these feuds not ending so they can continue. However, Piper and Ole would get the last laugh as they cost Tommy Rich the national championship in a match against Buzz Sawyer. Yes, Buzz Sawyer becomes the new national champion. And it must be mentioned, all the flack that the Attitude Era or the Monday Night Wars gets, the one negative that it always gets is that they would hotshot the title too much. But here we look at Georgia Championship Wrestling, and from Tommy Rich losing the title to Ron Bass, to Tommy Rich getting the title back from Ron Bass, to Tommy Rich then losing the title to Buzz Sawyer, we've had 3 title changes in 2.5 months. We'll see what Buzz Sawyer brings the rest of spring in part 2 of the spring of '82 for Georgia Championship Wrestling.